Giving the green light to guns. House Bill 875 would greatly expand your rights to carry guns into bars, churches, and even into some government buildings, although not the state capitol.
The bill did pass the House 119 to 56, but don't strap on your holsters just yet. The Safe Carry Protection Act still has to make its way through the Senate, and it may not be the slam dunk that supporters would like it to be. We're on the story. Welcome to On the Story Lawmakers Edition. It's Monday, February 24th, day 27 of the 2014 session of the Georgia General Assembly. I'm Bill Nigut.
And I'm Bobby Batista. The House has passed it. The governor has indicated he'll sign it. But will the Safe Carry Protection Act get through the Senate? We're looking at the fine print tonight. There's a lot that you might not know about it.
The push to expand gun rights in Georgia is back again this session. This year's bill is a little different than the one that stalled in the Senate last year. Here are some of the things the bill will do. It will allow guns in bars and churches, although bars and churches could opt out by posting a sign. It would allow guns in government buildings that don't have security screenings. Gun would be allowed in non-secure areas of the airport, and it would decriminalize penalties for carrying legal guns on college campuses.
Less known sections of the Safe Carry Protection Act abolish the need for being fingerprinted when you renew a gun license, and the bill would prohibit the state from setting up or maintaining a database of gun owners.
So the idea of campus carry, which proved fatal to last year's gun bill, remains one of the most divisive aspects of the gun rights legislation for lawmakers and for some students.
So what happens next?
College campuses are, especially this one, I find is very well protected by law enforcement. There are going to be instances in which law enforcement can't provide the kind of services necessary for the individuals on this campus, especially located where we are.
The presence of a gun really escalates the situation. I don't think it mitigates or makes the situation less dangerous. I think it's going to make it worse.
I was jumping the gun on the students there, sorry. So what happens next? We're going to discuss that tonight with Jerry Henry, the executive director of GeorgiaCarry.org, Representative Mary Margaret Oliver of Decatur, Georgia, and the Reverend Julie Pennington Russell, lead pastor of the First Baptist Church of Decatur.
Thank you all three for coming in. We know this is a volatile issue. It's been a very controversial issue, and we appreciate the fact you're all willing to discuss it tonight. We should say that we invited two of the key backers of this bill, Rick Jaspers and Alan Powell, who've been promoting this legislation, and neither of them could be with us. So thank you for your all appearing here. Let me start with you, if I can, Ms. Oliver. Where does this bill stand right now? Just give us a brief update on what we can expect in the days ahead on this legislation.
House Bill 875 has passed the House, and it has obviously gone to the Senate, and it'll have to be passed out of a committee in the Senate and then to the floor of the House. Floor of the Senate. If the Senate changes any provisions, it'll come back to the House, and usually when big and controversial bills are enacted in different forms by both chambers, there'll be a conference committee that may work out the details.
And there's been some concern on the Senate side about especially campus carry, yes?
Campus carry has been the center of the debate for years. And early in the session, just before the session, got a legal opinion that the General Assembly could not tell the Board of Regents what to do. It's campus by campus about whether or not guns could be on their campus. So the result of that prohibition of us banning or allowing guns on campuses was to limit the penalty for a gun on campus, to reduce the penalty dramatically.
Jerry, I think the question now is that according to the latest polls of Georgians across the state, 78% oppose allowing guns on college campuses and 72% oppose guns in church. So why now? Why is it so important to push through this legislation?
Well, that depends on which poll you're looking at.
Well, that was
we
the
had
Atlanta
a poll
Journal
run,
poll.
That's the Atlanta Journal poll, and if you look at the particulars of that poll, you'll find that it's skewed considerably. And the question was not asked in the same manner that the poll that we had done was asked.
Well, so what you're saying is that
In
most
our-
Georgians are in favor of these
Well,
laws?
actually, college carry, it was like 52 to 48 against, but that's within the margin of error. So about half the people in the state of Georgia are for or against, either way you want to put it, college carry.
So we should give you an opportunity, because both Reverend Russell and Representative Oliver are clearly not happy with this bill. So take a moment and tell us why expanding where guns can be carried, from your point of view, from Georgia Carry's point of view, is absolutely the right thing to do.
Well, I believe it's the right thing to do because I have the right to protect myself anywhere I go. And when we go into government-mandated gun-free zones, it's nothing but a place that invites criminals. If you look at Georgia Tech, look at the colleges where they are with gun-free zones. The crime rates are continually going up every year. Last year on Georgia Tech campus, I believe there's 38 rapes. We're putting our kids over and we're not giving them any way to handle it. And plus the fact that carrying guns on campus, it would not be students, it would be students who are over 21 years old who have been fingerprinted, background checked by the GBI, FBI, and mental health checks.
Well, since we have a member of the clergy here, Reverend Pennington Russell, that's such a mouthful. Reverend Julie, what do you not like about this bill? What is your fear?
Well, I have several concerns. I think, for one thing, it seems that the underlying principles driving this bill stand in direct conflict to the principles by which people of faith live and worship. For one thing, the bill, inherent in this bill, seems to be a required or assumed suspicion of the neighbor, the stranger, the other. Because the other can't be trusted. But our faith calls us to love the other, to love the neighbor, the stranger, and not to arm ourselves against each other, but to open ourselves to each other.
It also, doesn't it put churches in a difficult situation, in that if they post a no gun sign and somebody brings a gun into the church, they're suddenly in the business of law enforcement?
Well, they don't have to post a no-gun sign. There's nothing in the bill that forces them to post a sign that says no guns. But if they choose to? If they choose to, they can do that. They don't have to. They don't have to do anything.
But then they have to enforce the law.
No, they don't enforce the law.
Well, what if somebody brings a gun into the church?
They do the same thing that if I were to come to your place carrying a firearm and you didn't want it, then what do you do to it? You tell me to leave. If I don't leave, then you call the police and have me arrested for criminal trespass. That's the same way it is with every piece of private property in the state of Georgia.
But that's what I'm saying.
Churches
you put
are
churches
private
in
property.
that position.
Well, they're private property. Why shouldn't they be responsible for their property?
You both seem to be chomping at the bit.
86% of Georgians oppose guns in houses of worship. That's another poll, 78% of the AJC poll. We are imposing government law brought to us by a small minority of gun activists on all of the churches, tens of thousands of churches in Georgia. Under the House version of 875, we're requiring every church to opt out of the presumption that guns will be allowed. I go to church around the corner from here. I cannot imagine my church imposed upon them the obligation to take some kind of vote through our governing body about guns, which will inherently cause a controversy on our block. We own an entire block near the downtown Atlanta area. We don't choose to engage in the government policy to promote guns.
So you're, in all likelihood, fighting this year a really difficult uphill battle from your point of view. I mean, you have the polling numbers, you dispute them, but if it is true that a majority of Georgians oppose expanding carry laws, the fact is a majority of legislators seem to be firmly in the camp of going ahead with this. Why?
The promotion of guns is a political issue for many folks in elected office. It's a partisan issue. It's obviously opportunistic for some group of people in a partisan election system to support the expansion of guns. It's also a very personal issue. There are very strong personal views that you will feel safer, it may be your view, to carry a gun. I feel less safe when you carry a gun. Those personal views seem to be very, very strongly held. And they've come forward into the Georgia General Assembly, I think, in an unfortunate way.
You're going to get this, this is going to pass, the predictions are pretty much as Georgia Carry would like it to, isn't it?
I'm not sure what the predictions are now. I can tell you that the way the bill stands right now is the way we would like to see it passed, yes.
Okay, and what does that mean precisely? When you say as it now stands, what's in there?
As it was passed by the House.
So that's churches,
That's bars.
It's essentially decriminalizing the carrying of guns on campuses, right?
Yeah.
It's a minor fine for doing it.
Well, I would challenge you to tell me when you're on a college campus. If you're in downtown Atlanta, tell me where Georgia State ends and where the city begins. And the same thing right over here at Georgia Tech. When you go to Athens, it's the same way. One side of the street may be college and the next side may not be. So if I step across an imaginary line, I can be fined $1,000, put in jail for a year, and put in jail for a year for stepping across a property line that I didn't know was there.
I'm just curious, Jerry, because we think, as the Reverend referred to, and Representative Oliver also, that it's difficult to imagine people carrying guns into a church. Do you carry a gun into church?
It's against the law for me to carry a gun into church. Why would I do that?
Good point. Can you carry one into this building?
This is a government building, if I'm not mistaken, and no, I didn't carry one.
So what happens
if I were on Channel 11? I would have it on.
But you could, though, right? You're right. So if this bill passes, you can have a gun on you right now.
That's correct.
This bill passes. This building does not have security.
That's correct.
It wasn't secure when I walked in.
No.
Well, we do. It depends on what kind of security, though.
There was nobody to check me.
Metal detectors.
Nothing of that. So
there's no screaming or armed guards.
So what's this going to do to your church? Let's say the bill passes and churches are fair game. What's going to happen in your congregation? What will your first steps have to be?
Well, churches that they're forced by the state to decide to opt out, and there will be many houses of worship in Georgia that opt out. I suppose we'll need to put big signs on our lawns that say...
Who will make that decision? Will you make that decision? How will that happen? We heard Representative Oliver describe a process at her church, but what happens at your church?
Well, different churches have different...
Okay, but at your church?
In a Baptist church, we likely would put it before the congregation. We'd have a big congregational meeting. People would be able to speak for and against it, and at the end there would be a vote. I mean, I have a hunch how likely it would go at my church. But again, like Representative Oliver said, the very fact that churches are going to be placed into the position by our state to have to hold such meetings feels like an unwelcome intrusion of government into the faith life.
You don't have to hold a meeting. You don't have to do anything. The bill does not force you to do anything.
It allows
if you want to, you can, but you do not have to make any statement one way or the other. You don't make a statement on your private property, do you? If you do, it's your choice. The government doesn't tell you to make it. And that's what happens right now. And you want to talk about how safe you are in churches, I can show you a website you can go to where since 1999 there's been over 660 attacks and over 440 people killed in churches in the United States. And if churches are so safe, why do all the mega churches have their hired security guards?
We're running short on time and want to give you a chance to respond.
The promotion of more guns in more places always has an argument of fear. Somebody's going to be there to get you, and you need your gun. This bill decriminalizes guns in airports. It basically says if I carry a gun into the airport and I get caught, I can just walk away and say, oh, I forgot. This is a fairly aggressive form of promotion of guns in the state of Georgia.
To what end, do you imagine?
I think there are people who are really fearful. There are people who act and live in fear, and they believe that a gun will protect them. I think it's fear, I think it's opportunity politics, and I think it's all unfortunate.
All right, well, we thank you all very much for joining us tonight.
We will watch closely.
Thank you. That's it.